MudRFunR here. Today I'll be replacing the front driver's side fender on my 04 GMC Sierra 2500. So just by looking at this fender, looks like it's in beautiful shape. A lot of the rust is from underneath. You'll see it when I start taking this apart. And same back in here behind the flare by the mud flap. The other side, it looked perfectly fine until I took the flare off. And then, wow. I've already replaced the passenger side fenders because I've already got some of the details filmed from that side, so I didn't really want to repeat it on this side. So you may see some portions of that side in this video. So generally I would like to take the hood off first, just to give me access to everything a little bit better, but I need my wife to come out and help me with that, and she's busy at the moment. So, next thing I want to do is disconnect both batteries. If you have a diesel, you're guaranteed to have two batteries, and want them both unhooked. So on this far battery, I'm just going to unhook the negative cable, because this battery can stay in. Cable is off. And this battery is going to have to be disconnected from the positive and the negative, because that battery is coming out. Negative, positive, all disconnected. So next I'll be removing the mud flap and the fender flare and the inner fender. That screw isn't even holding in there. Neither is that one. It's not even holding into the fender. Got a bit of dirt falling out of there already. I've got some work to do on my rocker panels as well, so I've taken the side step off of there already. And that makes this bolt a little bit easier to get at. Alright, there we are. Ain't that something? And those weren't even holding in there anymore. Yeah, just a little bit rotten. So I've got all the push pins out of the inner fender here. You've got this right in here. It does have to come out of there. Okay. Now you can really see the rot under there. Not good. Not good at all. So these two bolts are going to have to come out, and it has a little pin in here, and that just holds a hose from the other side. You can see where I've lubed up those bolts right there. I'm pretty sure all those have to come out as well. I do know those do. So those are next. So these up here are 13 millimeter. That's what they look like. So the hood's gonna have to come off, and I always put a mark around the bolts. This way you can see exactly where it was when it came off, because they are adjustable. And then you need to take this wire off right here, and it's a 10 mil using a deep socket. Before I take the bolts out, I just put a cloth down underneath there, and this way when it drops. It's not going to scratch anything or break the windshield. Okay, and I'll take 2 of the bolts out on each side. I need you to hold this end, this side to top as high as you can get it. Okay, now we're going to go forward, just up and forward. Got it? Okay, let's go this way with it. So next will be the headlight. Easy peasy. And the grill is going to have to come out as well. So this top cover needs to come off, and I've got all the little push clips out of there. This is the last one. Pull that center part out and then pop that out. Grill would be next, and I'll include a little clip here of how to take the grill out from the other video. That's a 10mm bolt in there. That is the only bolt that holds this. So there's a bunch of these types of clips holding the grill in, and you might have to squeeze them in a little bit to get them out. There's 3 clips going this way. Oh, I guess it's only 2. It's half. Those. 2 more here. So right down there, there's a little clip. Just push that in, and this side slips right out. And it's free. So right up in behind the bumper here is a bolt. And surprise, it's a 13mm. So the bolt is out, and that's what it looks like. Sooner or later this plastic bracket here is going to have to go on to the new fender, so I'm just going to take it off right now, and just using a 10mm ratcheting wrench. Okay, bolts are out, and that's off. That's what the bolts look like. This brace here needs to come out. 10mm bolts. That's what the bolt looks like here. And I'm just going to put that bolt back in there. So down in between there, there's the 13mm bolt that holds the battery in. And out she comes. That battery box is in much better shape than the other side was when I took it off. Looks worse than what it really is. It's pretty rusty. There's 7 bolts that hold this in, and I've already got these all cracked loose with the hand ratchet. The reason I'm using my small impact driver is because I didn't want to twist them off, so I sprayed it and then turned it back in. So I might have to work this back and forth a few times till it comes loose, and it's better than twisting it off. Taking your time, at least then I won't have to worry about getting that bolt stud out of the bottom, because this piece I have to reuse. I guess you can't see this one, but a little persistence paid off. I got that one out. 3 long ones, 2 short ones so far. Then I gotta get these out of the front here yet. Okay, the 7 bolts are out, and this thing should lift right out. Next I'll be removing this bracket in between here, and these are 13mm again. Nice and easy. All 4 bolts are the same. That's what they look like. Just going to put them back in so that I can keep track of what's what. Less parts for the parts pile. Okay, top just pulls off. Little tab right over here that it has to clear. Not sure if you can see that there, but there's a tab there, and I just pushed it away so that I could free it from those tabs. I got a little bit of head here, and there's a little clip right here, and this whole thing should just pop out of here. There's a clip on this side, clip on this side, and should be able to pull that out of the way. I'm just being very careful. I don't want to break any connections here. This wire is kind of pulling tight right here, so I'm going to just pop that out of there. That way I can pull this a little farther that way to access my bolts. And that whole thing should just kind of pull out of the way there. And then there's 2 bolts down in here that I need to get at. So from here, the edge of the fender, I'm looking down, and I'm going to have to go upside down right here. But there is a bolt right up inside of here that holds it. And I moved this off the side there. I pulled it out. Right here you'll see a bolt down there, and then over here, just behind this, right beside where you see that purple wire, there's the other bolt right there. So what I ended up doing here was I used a 10mm socket with a swivel and a couple of extensions to get me up over top of this here electrical box. And it's kind of a pain getting it down in there and keeping it straight. I have it all cracked loose there from underneath here. You can see it right there. It's just all turning with, completely broken out. And I think this one's going to probably end up doing about the same. So either way, that thing will come off. I'm going to try and loosen that one. This one here, nothing left of the bottom of it here. So yeah, it'll come off. So these back 2 bolts are just turning with, and I'm going to undo this one. Alright, this one came out well enough. That bolt looks like that. And I just noticed another bolt. It's right beside that plastic right there. And again, I'm just getting out with my 1/4" ratchet. So now with these 2 bolts gone out of here, this whole thing even though I haven't got those bolts out yet. This whole thing just lifts right out. So that's what it looks like from the bottom side here. It just broke right out. I'm going to have to get those two bolts out one way or another yet, but do that after the fender's off. Yeah, that's how rotten that was. So I used my impact wrench up in between here. I had a swivel end on it with a 13mm socket, and I got these two nuts off. They came off from here and here. So now these, I've already taken one out. And they're just clipped into here, right near the firewall. There's another one there. And then that'll free up those two hoses there. And this back here is where I got these two nuts from. So now I'm just up inside the door here and got two long extensions on a 13mm socket again. And that one comes out right there. And then down here is the lower one. And there's that one. So if I'm correct, I believe there's just this bolt and these two bolts right behind the hinge right there. The front one is a little bit longer than the two back ones by the hinge. So this is the bottom of the fuse block here, and well, you saw how that broke off. Pulled right through with that washer. It pulled right through the plastic. I'll have to use some bigger flat washers when I put that back on right there so that those holes don't pull right through. But yeah, at least I got those off. It's a good thing. So here's the old fender, and there's quite a few things that I still need to take off of here for the new fender. Start off with the easy stuff. A couple of clips there to hold some hoses in place. There. So gonna probably need these two clip nuts. They're still in good shape. Two clips right there. I do believe that's where the part of the grill clips into. Two more clip nuts here. These two bolts are already out from this bracket. So that bracket is got to come off, and the hinge has to come off. And they're 13mm. And make sure you keep these hinge bolts separate because they got that little ridge on the bottom of them there. It's always unique for the hood. Brackets off. Hinges off. I'm just kind of laying the parts out all the way around here. When I get the new one over here, I know exactly where all the pieces belong. Old Fender. So this is the new one, and looks like it has the threaded nuts welded in over here and here and here, and here and here for the fuse box. So that's a good thing. It has threaded nuts already in here. I won't need those clip nuts, but I will need these two. So I've got one of them into place. Got a brass hammer under here. There we go. Don't need these two because there's already threaded nuts welded right into there. And these three clips. I've got those two nuts to go back on. There. There. Okay, so I'm going to put this bracket back on. And I don't have to round up those two bolts yet. Cleaned off all the rust off of this hinge on the top part. I know you can't see it, but putting a little bit of rust paint on there is going to prevent it from rusting behind the hood. Got this all boxed back up again. I still have a lot more body work to do on the truck, so I'm going to have to put this aside till the rest of the body's ready. The truck's back in the shop and the fender isn't going on yet. I just wanted to show just a tiny little bit here of the rust that I'm working with right here. That's the rocker panel done. So I'll get back to the fender once all this is repaired. And I'm not a licensed body man, and I'm not a professional body man. I just wing it. So once I get all this fixed, then I'm going back to the fender. Yeah, even broken off right along there. Oh well, I did the other side, and this one should be easier. Already done it once. So I've got the rocker panel all in place and just waiting for some of the primer to dry, so I'm going to start putting this fender on. Get it back out of the box again. So I've got some of my bolts ready. Got some anti-seize on them. So there's this long bracket right here. And that needs to go into the front here before anything. Getting somewhere. Originally that was a long bolt and it was pretty rusty, and I needed a new one, so I just put a shorter one in. To get this hinge into place, I just lifted this plastic up and hooked it in behind it there, and then you should be able to get these two bolts in right here. I'll put these two nuts back on right here. everything is just loose. And then I'm just putting these two back in from the bottom. Next I'll be replacing this front bolt up there, and it was a long bolt as well, and we got a better looking bolt here, also a short one, and that one goes into the front hole right there. So the next thing I'll do is get these long ones up inside behind the door here. And that one's in. Now this bottom one, not sure if you can see it there, but that hole isn't lined up with the fender. I didn't get that on camera, but that clip had fallen down, so I used this long screwdriver here to lift it back into place. And then once I got the screwdriver pinned in there to hold it, I had to push the fender inward from the outside, and I managed to get it in. I just got these two hand tight. So this is what you get with aftermarket cheap stuff. The other side turned out a whole lot better, but you can see how far apart that is right there. That crack is huge, and you can see right there it kind of sticks out. It's not flush with the door, and this is, I'm sure, not the proper way to do it either, but this is what I'm doing. So to get that to line up a little better there, pushing it inward, just got it up against my leg here, and I'm pushing it in as far as I can. So I'm pushing that in with my leg, and I'm going to tighten up these two bolts right here. And I need to tighten them a little bit more. So it didn't make much of a difference, but it did push that inward a little bit. Inward that way. I just wish I could push it so that this crack is a little narrower, but that's about as good as I can get it right there. At least until I get the mud flap on, then I might be able to push this bottom a little further. Yeah, that is one cheap fender, I tell you. So these are all nice and tight, and the two inside the door are tight. Are tight, and then these two right up in here. Top one in the front. And the two underneath the inner fender here. And that one up in the front there. Get that with my ratcheting wrench. Both batteries are unhooked. And that bungee can come off. Should just lift right back up over top. I've got two shorter bolts here with anti-seize on them, and I think these are the ones, but I'm not quite sure. Actually, these should have a bigger washer on them. I got two with bigger washers and they're a little bit shorter. Hopefully they're going to work. So I've got this one almost all the way tight. And I'm going to do this one. And then I'm going to get a couple of new bolts for down in here. So I got the air hose out and blew everything out. And those two holes, they're lining up perfectly. There's one right there, one right over here. So I got some new bolts for that. Little shorties with big washers. And I got some anti-seize on the bolts. So all those bolts are in now and tight. All four of them. Just gonna push all this wiring back where it belongs. And this one here, I had pulled that out of there just so I could get a little more lift out of this. Actually, that whole thing needs to come forward, and then this. And there's another one on the other side that clips in like that. And if everything is in place, and then there's a clip right inside there where it hooks into as well. So clip there, and clip there. So I'm going to get that corrosion off of this post here and clean some of this up a little bit more. So I got those connections cleaned up somewhat and put some dielectric grease on there so it won't be doing that again. Hopefully not. It goes in a lot easier than it comes out, that's for sure. So then next is this brace. I've already got anti-seize on all the bolts. So then the next thing is my much improved battery box. Looks a lot better than it did when it came out, that is for sure. So this center one over here was a little bit longer, and that holds this windshield washer up in place there. Got a new bolt for that one. I found myself some new bolts, brand new used anyway. All 7 of those bolts are in. They're not all matching, but hey, they work, and they're newer than what was in there. I've got the battery cables nicely cleaned up, and time for the battery to go in. And before I hook up the wires, I'll put that little block in there. Anti-seize, no doubt. And I'm just going to make sure my battery is tightened down, which it is. Time for this little bracket again. Those hook into that slot right there. 2 10mm bolts again. So just set it right on top of that hinge. Get that grease rag, doesn't matter. you there for? Hold on. You're good there. Alright, you're good. Okay, one is in. Okay, that's 2 are started. Okay, I'm gonna lift this up. And then stay line up. So these bolts are just in there, they're not tightened yet. This is where the yellow mark comes in, what I made before. Just getting them all just tight, barely hand tight. Get rid of those cloths now. Pretty close. I'll go do the other side and then I'll tighten those up all the way if it matches. And the hinge has to come this way. Pretty close to where it was. Alright, let's see how it closes. Wire can go back on as well. So the fender is on and I've got it all sanded up. My truck won't fit all the way in the shop here, so it's gonna have to go outside for the night, and then in the morning I'll wipe all that down. Got all this ready. I'm gonna paint the bottom of the doors there just to make it look a little bit nicer. Give it a paint job. Got some stone guard on the bottom there. And fixed up the cab corner there a little bit. And that's all gonna get painted tomorrow. That's the new rocker. All the way from front to back. And that rocker guard is dry enough now. Everything should be dry enough that I can close the doors again. Probably have to retape some of that stuff tomorrow, but gotta get this out. Got no room. So it's a new day again, and it's getting to be evening already. I got the fender all painted here, and a little bit on the bottom of the doors, and of course the rocker all the way across. I can't really shut my doors right now, but you can see I did the bottom there and the bottom of the rockers. Probably hard to see here, but that's not what we're here for. So I'm just going to get back to putting the rest of the front end on now. I almost forgot to put this little brace in, and my fender is still a little wet, so I better just be careful with it. Don't lean on it. And this is next. Headlight. Yeah, if you want to see how to replace a headlight, I have a video. I'll post a link right up there for you. Alright, and then the grill. And that's all there is to it, except for there's supposed to be a bolt right here, and my plastic is all broken around there, so can't put a bolt in. Hasn't fallen out yet. And then this piece. Just getting the last of the little clips pushed in here, all 7 of them. There she is. So the fender flare and the mud flap and everything else is going to have to wait yet until this all dries nice and hard. I did a pretty good job of it there. It has some spots on it where some dust has collected, and doesn't matter, it's an old truck and that looks pretty damn good for an old truck. So I'll just take everything off nice and careful. I'm going to leave the doors partially open like this for a little while longer yet, and then I'm going to park it outside, get it out of my shop. I got some bigger fish to fry. And right out there in the driveway, there's the big fish. Coming soon.